Hi everyone.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
क्या हो रहा है? लेट कैसे हो गए आज हम?
Good
ज्यादा पढ़ा
afternoon.
Don't
देते.
know. We got a message that it will be started. It will be starting.
ओके. मुझे लगा आप लोग ऑलरेडी किसी और क्लास में थे. ओके. रिकॉर्डिंग शुरू हो गई क्या? पॉज कर. So welcome everyone. We are beginning module number 6. In our pearl necklace, this is the last bead we are going to weave, which means that this will be done in two segments, 6.1, 6.2. This is something coming together about all the modules that you have learned till now. So it will in a way also serve kind of a revision as to what all you have done and heard in the past. Aaj ka session will be very light, and it's good for my health also because I don't have that much energy that I generally have on other days. Um, Today's session will be light because we'll cover some of the aspects that most of you, if you've been alert and present in the last few years, you will be aware of these things happening in the world. So let me share my screen and show you what we will be covering today. Okay. So not to ruin the surprise, फटाफट से 1 second. हाँ, I will ruin the surprise. Okay, here you go. It's not really a surprise, but I'll ruin the beginning. Okay, people can see my screen, guys.
Yes.
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, please. Yes.
So this is the most awaited module because this is what people relate to, and people are able to take this back to their workplace, to their friends, colleagues, and also have a informed conversation about it. Just to give you a weather update, there's a lot of breeze going on in Delhi, which means that my curtains are going up and down, but it's all hot air. I prefer to sit in an airy room. So if you see suddenly a curtain popping up, it is not कोई भूत नहीं आया है. It's just my curtain trying to play funny. If you see this one come into the screen like that. So yeah, I mean sometimes you just ये कहाँ से आया? And suddenly why is this so breezy? It's breezy, it's hot air, but nevertheless. Okay, back to the topic. I tend to get sometimes a bit distracted. Let's talk about digital learning platforms. Yay! We've been waiting for this, and this is our final um, module, which will have learnings from all previous modules. It will give you a sense of recap. It will give you a sense of um, understanding that, okay, this is how it all clicks together. What will we cover? We will cover these topics. Terms and concepts of digital learning. It's a bit of dummied down. आप सोच सकते हो it's like बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं क्या? But हाँ, truth is बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं because many of us have this misunderstanding कि हमें ये सारे terms आते हैं, we know what they mean. But when you scratch the surface, you actually realize that नहीं यार, this clarity really helped me. At least I can say for myself, it did help me. So what will we cover today? हम ये सारा cover करेंगे? No, हम नहीं करेंगे इतना सारा. We will only cover key terms and concepts, digital learning platforms, evolution of learning platforms. So my favorite, little bit of history, benefits of digital learning platforms, and types of digital learning platforms. We will pause here, and then next session, which is going to be our last session, we are going to talk about features of digital learning platforms, parameters, which will allow you to decide which learning platform is correct for your organization, for your learning audience, and for your benefit to bring learning closer to the people whom you are responsible for. Then we'll also talk about softwares and services related to digital learning platforms. We'll talk about LMS and we'll talk about Moodle. Those people who know about Moodle, great. Those people who don't know about Moodle, even greater. So we'll talk a little bit about Moodle. So let's jump right in and make this really interactive. Now there are some terms, a bunch of terms that I've thrown on the screen. Digital learning, ऑनलाइन लर्निंग, ई लर्निंग है, ये तो सारे सेम ही होते हैं? नहीं होते हैं. Take a few minutes, guys. Use your intelligence and your vocabulary to read through what's there on the screen. I don't need to parrot this, but in case any of you have a dissonance and you don't agree to what's on the screen, let's talk about it. But right now, these terms that are on the screen will allow you, when you talk about them, it will allow you the intelligence to know what is the fine difference between each of them. But, excuse me. And that fine difference can make a world of difference when you're talking in the form of learning management systems. And also with vendors, also with seniors, also with learning experts. So I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds, I guess. It won't take more than that, maybe a minute, and let you read what is the difference between digital learning, online learning, and e-learning. Done? Everybody? Yes, so maybe?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah? Let's go back to an analogy of superset, subset. What are we saying is a superset? Digital learning. Any form of learning which happens that includes digital technology, हम उसको club कर देते हैं digital learning में. ठीक है? It can be internet research, it can be learning through smart boards, tablets. It can also include higher educational courses that involve digital learning. So this is the broadest term. उससे एक नीचे आते हैं, ऑनलाइन लर्निंग. इसका मतलब क्या है? इट्स स्लाइटली नैरोअर देन डिजिटल लर्निंग, मगर हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि द लर्निंग इज हैपनिंग थ्रू फोरम्स, शेयर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट्स, ईमेल, चैट. मगर इसमें ये इम्प्लीकेशन नहीं है कि क्लासरूम सेशन हो नहीं रहे हैं, एज इन देयर इज नो ट्रेनर इंटरेक्शन. इसका इम्प्लीकेशन नहीं है. ऑनलाइन लर्निंग इज ऑनलाइन लर्निंग. इट कैन और कैनॉट हैव लर्निंग्स विद अ ट्रेनर. But e-learning is primarily which clearly calls out the course is taken entirely over the internet, which means that the trainers and the learners do not meet face to face. All coursework and communication is handled through emails, forums, chat, video conference. Okay? So many organizations, just to make sure there is a clear demarcation, they call e-learning as fully online course. So next time somebody says, "Hi, same hi matlab hai." All of them mean the same. You can, if you want to pick a fight, actually bring them to their place, saying that no, you cannot use these terms interchangeably. Let's look at few more terms. Now these are simpler. That one I had to give you time to read. This one I will going to read with you. Distance learning. It's a synonym for e-learning. एक ही मतलब है. It's just that geographical locations and differences come into the picture. It's a synonym for e-learning. It's just that the emphasis is being given to geographical location and the geographical distance between the learners. Blended learning. Blended learning, we have referred to the model called 70-20-10, right? It's a mix between traditional classroom and online courses. Blended learning is most of the time used, embraced, and implemented in organizations because it actually takes away the pressure of depending upon one medium to provide information learning to people. Blended learning is successful only and only when the 70% of the learning element is executed successfully. Now, if you can tell me what is the 70% of the learning element? बताओ.
When the learning is implemented on the job.
On the job learning. Thank you, Sandeep. 70% of the learning is on the job, and 10% of the learning is where?
Classroom sessions.
10% of the learning is classroom sessions, and where does the 20% come from?
Through coaching.
Through coaching, mentoring, and another interesting word we call is show and tell. Show and tell. Karke dikhao. I taught you how to make tea in a book. You have all the fancy ideas, but you have never seen somebody make tea. So now that I have taken you into the kitchen, shown you what utensils to use, how much the water needs to be boiled, what proportions and quantities of various kinds of ingredients need to be added for a fantastic cup of tea. That is show and tell. And then the next bit comes, the 70% comes, is when you are said, Ab tum banao. You make the tea. And the supervisor stands, handholds you, lets you do mistakes, lets you do disasters, and corrects them online. Either it's, when I say online, it means that in time, in synchronization. So here, your mentor, your guide, or your coach can be in person, or it can be online. So हाथों हाथ आपको feedback मिलता है, हाथों हाथ आप गलतियों से सीखते हैं, and then you move forward. It is the most effective way of what should I say? Disseminating learning in today's world. I show you and you show me. That's correct, Brijesh. Now, let's now look at the other things, which is like very easy, very simple. Online course materials. क्या है? When somebody says online course materials, it is again the superset. उसमें आपका मटेरियल भी आता है, सिलेबस भी आता है, डिस्कशन फॉर्म भी आता है, अदर काइंड ऑफ रिसोर्सेज, ऑनलाइन वीडियोस, सारा कुछ आता है ऑनलाइन कोर्स मटेरियल. But when we further narrow it down, digital curriculum, it means that I will get the structure of all the lectures. कौन सा material share होगा? For example, you guys got right in the beginning from me, what all modules will be breaking into two pieces, what kind of tests will happen, what kind of videos you are required to watch, what are optional, what is mandatory, all of that is considered digital textbook. Especially for blended learning, the clarity of digital curriculum is paramount. Without that, you cannot get the confidence of the learner कि मुझे पता है कि what I am going to learn and what my roadmap is. E-textbook again is the narrowest term जो ऑनलाइन आपको किताब मिलती है, जो आपको in this situation आपको इन सब्जेक्ट्स के लिए मिली हुई है, that's the e-text. Okay. Now, my favorite bit is going to happen. And that favorite bit is, we are going to talk about digital learning platforms. Now, what are digital learning platforms? Digital learning platforms provide a safe and productive learning environment. Now, what qualifies a platform as a digital learning platform? Can we call Netflix as a digital learning platform? Can we call Adobe a digital learning platform? There has to be some criteria a platform needs to meet to be called a digital learning platform. So, क्या है वो qualifications? What are the conditions that must be met for some platform to be called a digital learning platform? First of all, designed for use by trainers, delivers interactive training sessions, multimedia gamification elements included, customized learning experience for each trainee possible. Now, whether you use that power or not is up to you. Same is the case with gamification elements. तुम use कर रहे हो नहीं कर रहे हो आप पे depend करता है, but it has to be present if it has to qualify as a digital learning platform. And then there is customized learning for each trainee. That means you can change the material, the content, etc., based on the level of awareness, level of education, level of requirement for your target audience. And then last but not the least, performance and progress reports based on data. It gives me some form of analytics, etc. So at the bottom, I have ventured to give couple of top learning platforms, digital learning platforms currently. So I have mentioned Canvas, I have mentioned Khan Academy, I have mentioned Nearpod, GoReact. The examples are in front of you. These are platforms that are being called digital learning platforms that are widely, easily available for everybody. This is what a digital learning platform is. Now let's understand the evolution of learning platform. Now, this is a crazy graphic, but if you look at it closely, it gives you a very interesting journey from point 1 to point 9, where we are saying organizational training is structured and programmed. Whereas in the point number 9, we have moved away from structured program training to personalized, bite sized, individual learning. That means that it doesn't only take care of learning in general, it also individualizes learning. So now, if you look at, I have not purposely put the years because it actually spans over various kind of evolution in the learning platform spans over number of years. So that's why I'm not ventured to put out number of years. But then if you follow the journey, you will realize when the other one started overlapping and started becoming a formalized way of learning. So first was when you go back in time, ट्रेनिंग एंड सर्टिफिकेशन. आपको ट्रेनिंग सेशन के लिए नॉमिनेट किया जाता है. जब नॉमिनेशन के लिए आप जाते हैं, यू कैन अंडरगो द ट्रेनिंग. मोस्ट ऑफ इट इज in person. You sit in a classroom, you learn. If your trainer is innovative, they will use some interesting examples, slides, games, icebreakers. They will use some videos. They will take you into breakout areas for some physical games as well, not just desk games. And once you finish the training, you are required to give a test and then you get a certification. That used to be the most basic form of training, which many of us have encountered, the ones from the older workforce. And then after that, trainers realized कि मैं ये हर बार करता हूँ. The content doesn't change so much. Audience changes, but then because of this repeatability of the content, I am wasting precious energy and time that I can utilize in researching for other courses, etc. क्यों ना मैं इसका रिकॉर्ड कर दूं, रिकॉर्ड करके लोगों को एज लेक्चर्स दे दूं, and then it becomes easier for them to access, rewind, listen, and then they can interact with me in terms of questions, doubts, clarifications. That became the first form of e-learning, where videos were provided, materials were provided online, and people were said, इसको देख देख के सुन के अपने आप पढ़ो. E-learning delivery. That became the second milestone. The third milestone, people realized कि भैया सिर्फ सुनने से बात नहीं बन रही, प्रैक्टिस है नहीं. People are saying you are certified. बंदा आया है, उसने कभी जिंदगी में कोई मशीन नहीं पकड़ी. They have not taken a live conversation. They have not worked on a certain kind of a software. उनको हमने सर्टिफिकेट के भेज दिया काम करने के लिए. कैसे होगा? So we are saying that now, before anybody gets certified, the person needs to go through a blended training, which means that not only the bookish knowledge that you get in the classroom, which rightly was just mentioned 2 minutes back, 10% in the classroom, 20% show and tell, and then you will be practicing in the real life scenario until the time you get it right, you will not get certified. That became blended learning. It was instant, what should I say, instant hit. But remember, the 70-20-10 model was applied earlier, but it became formalized as 70-20-10 later. ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग के टाइम पे क्या बोलते थे इसको? बोलते थे भैया इसको ना इन पर्सन ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेज दो, अब तो इसने थियोरी कर लिया ना, इसको प्रैक्टिकल के लिए भेज दो. So people would go in labs, they will do facility tours, they will work with mentors and supervisors, and they will go and observe people working. But there is no formal structure to it. How many hours? What are the ways of evaluation, etc., etc. So it was given form and structure when people called the structure as 70-20-10 learning. And I'm correcting myself. Structure is something that cannot be changed. System always evolves. So actually, this became a system for training people. And this was one of the most noticeable and most influential changes that happened in the learning process. Okay. So now I'm going to stop the share for a minute because I've been speaking for a long time. Can you tell me what is the adult learning principle? What is the time that an adult can engage with e-learning or a trainer without getting distracted. What is that time? वो ALP में cover होता है, Adult Learning Principle में cover होता है. Do any of you know?
So it is, I think, 15 to 20 minutes or 6 to 7 slides.
20 to 21 minutes average, on an average. This
Yes.
was based, thank you. And this was based on the previous research done on Generation X and Generation
The
X के बाद क्या है? Z. नहीं, Z नहीं, millennials. So now, in recent times, I was talking to a psychologist, and again, it's not formal research. This is just me talking to my network and finding out. They told me that 21 minutes has now gone down to, take a guess, how many minutes?
10 minutes.
7 to 10.
10 minutes.
10. Any other numbers? 2
I
to 3
said
minutes?
7 to 10.
7 to 10.
7 to 8 maybe.
7 to 8 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. What else? मारो लठ मारो, कोई बात नहीं. मारो लठ मारो.
रील्स रहते ना रील्स 4.5
3.5 minutes. So she works for NASA and she does the psychometrics for NASA. She has studied all the younger generation specifically, not X, the millennials and the generation Z. She said that their attention span is 3.5 minutes. If they do not capture the essence in 3.5 minutes, if you are not able to place a hook or attract them, कि भाई ये काम का है तुम्हारे लिए, they lose interest. They go off camera, just like other than me and Smita, nobody is on camera, and they will start doodling. और आपको म्यूट पे डाल के हो सकता है साइड में मूवी भी देख रहे हो. यू नेवर नो कि भाई लेक्चर का तो मिल जाएगा, मन नहीं कर रहा, अब नहीं सुन रहा है, मूड ऑफ हो गया कि क्या पता नहीं बोले जा रहे हैं, बै 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 बै, मैं नहीं सुन रहा. Some of you might also relate to it. I relate to it because online sessions in itself for me is a drag. I love human connection. And then if somebody is boring and droning on and on and on, digital transformation happens when you implement e-learning. I will go to sleep if that happens. And trust me, I have actually attended courses and webinars after paying money. That's the experience I have had. So no criticism, but just letting you know that adult learning principle is the time for which you have to design your course in a way that people can be hooked in, literally hooked in. They have the curiosity. What is the best way to create curiosity for a course or for a material?
Using all vast and means visual, kinesthetic, and so that is one. And more adult are usually more engaged when they find something is relevant to their day-to-day life or work profile. That is more important.
What else?
What in it for me? That is the question comes
What's in
in
it
there.
for me? Yes, what's in it for me? Magar, और बताओ, knowledge and deep understanding. Thanks, Ganesh. What is the first thing that you see when a program is dished out? What is the first thing?
Their own qualification, experience, understanding
नहीं,
on top.
पीछे हटो.
टॉपिक
Rewind.
टॉपिक कौन सा टॉपिक है
Objectives.
Topic.
Objectives.
Exactly. Rewind. तो objectives देख लिया. Our objectives boring है. Learn to know how to work with different kind of generations, learning management systems and technology applications. मुझे तो नहीं
Delivery.
पढ़ना ये.
Yeah.
It's very boring. What is it that you can intrigue people to come to your class? What do you write? What do you write?
The objective of the program in relation
Objective
to
से भी
the
पहले क्या आता है? Objective से भी पहले क्या आता है?
बेनिफिट पहले बताना पड़ेगा
बेनिफिट भी
Benefit.
छोड़ो. बेनिफिट भी छोड़ो. पहली चीज क्या देखोगे जब कोई ट्रेनिंग
Preface या
प्रोग्राम?
Skills, skill,
Preface या
facilitating skills.
Name of the program. Name of the program. How can exactly create mystery and make it simple? So, for example, I read a training program right now, 15 minutes back, in one of my groups. I told you guys I'm a life coach also, right? So these people keep posting various kind of programs. One of the programs is named How to Torture Your Bodies in 10 Ways. Now, do you want to go to this class or not? Yes, no, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah.
है ना?
Yes, yes,
How to
interesting.
torture your bodies. How to
Yeah,
torture your body. 10 ways to torture your body.
yeah, it's weird, and I would like to explore more.
हाँ कि क्या बोलने वाले हैं एटलीस्ट 10 मिनट तो मैं सुन ही लूंगी जाके क्या है ये. Similarly, there was another one that I am planning to do. Okay, shh, nobody says this to anybody. AI going bananas. AI going bananas. Now people want to know, how is AI going bananas? You have to create a hook
So
as to how people will engage with you and come with full of curiosity. और hook बनाना काफी नहीं है. हुक के साथ आपको शुरू में ही कुछ ऐसा मटेरियल डालना पड़ेगा सो दैट पीपल एंगेज विथ यू. अदरवाइज वो आपके टॉपिक में ही खत्म हो जाएगा. 3.5 मिनट बाद एग्जैक्ट पीपल विल लॉग ऑफ. राइट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल देयर इज वन प्रोग्राम दैट आई डू. इट्स नेम इज पोस्टपोनिंग हैप्पीनेस. पोस्टपोनिंग हैप्पीनेस. व्हाई डू यू वांट टू पोस्टपोन हैप्पीनेस? वेज टू पोस्टपोन हैप्पीनेस. एक दिन में सीखे इंग्लिश स्पीकना. आई लाइक इट. थैंक्स गणेश. So the title of your program, and now jokes apart, and thanks for the engagement. Jokes apart, it's important for to us to create something exciting, create a curiosity. This was true even in the past, but today's world, it is even more true than it ever was. Because again, going back to our conversation, the attention span of people has reduced, and there are so many alternatives. मुझे क्लास नहीं करनी, मैं कुछ और कर लूंगा. क्या कर लूंगा? मैं कुछ बाहर करने चला जाऊंगा. एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज कर लूंगा. मैं रील्स देख लूंगा. मैं ऑडिबल पे पॉडकास्ट सुन लूंगा. मैं कुछ कर लूंगा. देयर इज एनफ थिंग्स टू डू. गॉन आर द डेज वेयर देयर इज लिमिटेड थिंग्स. So that makes your classroom attractive. And do not reveal objectives. Contrary to what used to be, boring circulars or brochures mat bhejo. If somebody comes over for your curious classroom, the first thing they will say is that, can you share the content with me? Can you share a brief outline? Say no. Say no. Say come and explore. It will remove the mystery. Then there will be some studious people who will say कि हम कुछ पढ़ के आएंगे, हम कुछ knowledge gain करके आएंगे क्लास के लिए. उनको बोलो मत आओ knowledge gain करने. Because when they come to your class, after gaining knowledge, they are constantly judging you. ये तो पढ़ा था, इन्होंने तो ये cover नहीं किया. Discourage people from going through material beforehand. Create curiosity. In the first 7 minutes, establish the vision. Have some fun. Tease people. Create engagement. And make the vision clear. And no pre-read required. Thank you, Sandeep. कोई pre-read नहीं, कुछ नहीं. आप बस आओ. Come ready to be alert and present in the classroom, and we will have fun. What will be the outcome? कुछ सीख जाएंगे साथ में. So that's how you make, in today's world, one of the ways to make your classrooms interesting. Remember, I am not saying that the other approach of sending a curriculum, sending pre-reads, sending course outline is wrong. It is not. It is just that you run the risk of people thinking it to be boring, monotonous, and not engaging. Nothing else. It's not wrong. It's just that if you want that added advantage to pick the interest of people and to have a fabulous session, not an average or a good session, that is when you can experiment with these things. Okay? Let me go back to sharing. Now, what else can we observe here? Let's look at the other aspects after that. How many of you were foreign to the concept of talent development for a long time? Talent development. What is talent development? बताओ. Is it?
Talent development is basically the internal stakeholder or the employees that we have. We need to from the HR point of view or from the learning development point of view, we need
Huh.
to see what their interests are and probably and make them help them grow, because based on the performance review, based on the feedback receiving from the reporting managers,
Huh.
आईजीपी के लिए हो या उनके ग्रोथ के लिए हो, टैलेंट डेवलपमेंट में वही हमारा जो इनबिल्ट इंटरनल टैलेंट है, हमारे एम्प्लॉयज हैं, उनको ग्रो करवाना है बाय हेल्प ऑफ लर्निंग एंड डेवलपमेंट वर्कशॉप, जो भी जैसे भी चाहिए हो.
Hmm. So I like what, thank you. And I also like what Brijesh wrote, awakening hidden talent. तो देखो मेरा ना awaken हो गया hidden talent. I want to start a business for cold pressed juices. And I work in a company which designs softwares. क्या करेंगे इस एस्पिरेशन का बताओ, क्या करेंगे? बोलो बोलो बोलो.
I may put like this even I don't know about that. Obviously, that is individual can have multiple and different weird kind of
Exactly.
expectation.
हाँ.
For talent management, I think this is apt where the people have their opportunity to grow in particular career, and
हाँ.
there is the opportunity given by the HR that after contributing for 2 years consecutively, and if you aspire for, let's say, one who is in sales wanted to come in marketing, you can
Yes.
have a education, further education from organization where the contribution
Mhm.
of the fee will be there, and the person can grow himself for that next level and the aspired level.
हाँ. And thank you, Bharat, for verbalizing it. Ganesh is also saying the same thing. But now, instead of two, I'm going to say there are three aspects of talent development. Three aspects कौन से हैं? So you are not foreign to the concept where you ask, क्या पढ़ाना है? इन लोगों को किस चीज की ट्रेनिंग चाहिए? आपने जगह बोला. सुपरवाइजर बोलते मैं बताता हूँ, मेरी टीम ने इस मामले में एकदम बर्बाद है, ये हर बार यही गलती होती है. So they give you a list of things that their team members they think need to be trained on. Okay, so they give you a list. Now you go with that list, you design a program. When the people reach the classroom, you realize ये तो requirement थी ही नहीं. Okay, you do a pre-test and you would say, oh my God, the supervisor has no idea what its team, his or her team requires. The second thing, the aspect is the supervisor thinking that my team requires training in so and so things is a judgment, is a women fancy. Is just कि मुझे देख के मुझे ऐसा लगता है, quote unquote, मुझे ऐसा लगता है. This is what I perceive. The second aspect is for you to take the scientific approach, where you, on a regular basis, do process knowledge tests to find out Tina is in X job, and how is Tina doing in this job? She is supposed to be at expert proficiency in digital transformation. She is supposed to be no proficiency, no in the sense she should know about it, about social media. And she is at a do level, no, do, teach. These are three levels generally proficiency has. Most of the manufacturing people will relate to this, no, do, teach. But then in more sophisticated corporate frameworks, we call them 1, 2, 3. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Some organizations also call this foundational, essential, and expert. Okay? Whatever the level is, you say that Tina is supposed to be at a foundational level in this subject or this skill or competency. She's supposed to be at an expert level in this competency, and she's supposed to be at an average level in this competency. Now, supposed to being the keyword here. Where is she currently? So you take supervisor feedback, you take peer feedback, you take her day-to-day job inputs. If the KRAs are clear, the KRA inputs will give you a guidance. To Shuli's point, as a human resource, we do not always connect and interact with people in operations on a daily basis. It might be not crystal clear for us if people throw us some KPI data. It goes to the point how you are measuring the key performance indices for the people for you to make any sense from it. So let us say that the key performance indicators have been designed correctly. And you get to know that Tina was supposed to be an expert in this, but she is just a no in this. Okay. She can't even do. She's basically requires 50% improvement, etc. etc. Now, what is the reason why she is not 100% in this? There can be two things. Either she doesn't know it, she hasn't been trained on it, nobody has taught her, nobody has mentored her, or maybe she's not good at that job. Yes or no? Have you guys lost me, or is it making sense? Yes or maybe?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So there are inputs that your supervisor is given. And then there is the second input, where is what is it that Tina really requires? So in these skills, she's supposed to be better, but क्यों नहीं हो पा रही है? She has the education, she has the experience. Why is she not able to do this job? So then you do a pre-test and you find out, well, Tina, you have been hired to do this job. How can we help you? I need to understand this. मेरे को इसमें confusion होती है. मैं इस पे lost हो जाती हूँ. I would really appreciate if you can give me some help. Now, this help can be classroom, can be show and tell, can be a practice, can be a short-term assignment, can be mentoring, can be anything. Now, there's the other aspect that Tina hates the job. She took the job because और कुछ मिल नहीं रहा था. उसने हाँ बोल दिया, काम खत्म करो. So she's joined the organization just because she remotely knew something about all this, and she said कि कर लेंगे यार, जाके सीख लेंगे, कुछ कर लेंगे. In that situation, you have to figure out along with the supervisor कि भैया इसका जो talent है, obviously she is a bright girl, you have hired her, she must have shown some promise. What can we train her in? What skills can we provide her? What job opportunities are available for her to shine and not be average, be excellent? So that, my friends, is talent development. Organization is the king. So the other aspect that I told you, that I want to run a business of raw pressed juices or cold pressed juices, that is my personal aspiration. Now in many organizations, people mix it up. They said, मुझे तो aspirational trainings करनी है. So when you go and you take a license from Udemy, people go and sign up for all kinds of weird courses which are not going to contribute to their job at all. Now, nobody is stopping you from doing that. You want to follow your heart, you are most welcome to do so. You are happy, we are happy, you will be able to do your job better. But what is mission critical for the organization? What is mandatory? What is optional will be decided by you, the learning expert. So while Tina is free to go and do a course on Udemy as to how to extract cold pressed oil or cold pressed juices and how to kindle her entrepreneurial spirit. At the same time, the organization does specialize in raw pressed juices. As a result, you have to be aware that these are the other things that the organization thinks you should learn. So now when your IDP is created, what is an IDP? Anyone? Anyone? IDP?
Individual development
Individual.
plan.
Yes. So when your individual development plan is created, Tina should be convinced that yes, based on the data and based on last year's performance, this seems to be a program that I should be investing in. These are the trainings I should be investing in. These are the numbers I should be investing in. But you know what? My supervisor is so generous. She is also allowing me to do a course on Green Belt Six Sigma. Yeah, she's allowing me to explore this possibility in my own time. Must have, should have, could have, won't have. Thank you, Brijesh. So I am grateful for my supervisor, but she's telling me, ये course तुम कर सकते हो, मगर Tina, you will have to do it in your own time. You cannot say I am doing this course during working hours. So I am getting that flexibility. So I am meeting my aspirational requirement. But in addition to that, I am also meeting the organizational requirement of developing my talent to contribute to the organization more. This is point number 5. I take some time in demystifying talent development, which everybody thinks talent development training है. Training तो है भाई साहब. तो training क्यों नहीं बुला रहे उसे? Talent development क्यों बुला रहे? Because it also has a role to play in succession planning. Your future talent pipeline. So you've been doing a certain job for certain number of years. अब तुम्हारा भी तो growth level बनेगा. तुम्हारा ग्रोथ बनेगा तो तुम जो काम अभी कर रहे हो किसी को तो करना पड़ेगा. So is there a pipeline that we are developing so that somebody can replace Tina and Tina can do a greater job? Number one. Number two, is somebody retiring and Tina is replacing that person? Is there a way that we are doing a seamless succession planning and developing the talent 3 years before this person retires? So let us say a CFO is retiring, a CTO is retiring. Are we going to hire from outside or are we going to create a talent pipeline that over the next 3 years, this person will be groomed, mentored to step into the shoes of the existing person seamlessly? So, ladies and gentlemen, the word is very simple, talent, no, two words, talent development. But then the implications are far fetching and they are not synonymous to the word training and development or training, which people often misunderstand. That is training development. So now if you move to the next milestone, social mobile learning user generated content. I have shared this example in past class also that nowadays there is a lot of learning that happens as crowd work. For example, if you have a question about taxation, you have a question of something, you don't necessarily have to wait for your CA to respond. You don't necessarily have to call customer care. You don't necessarily have to go and read a book or learn a course. There is so much material available on discussion forums like Quora, like Reddit, and so many others that you are able to find the information that is relevant for you, and you are able to also share that with others. So, this is to some extent called user generated content, and also is to some extent called crowd work. Okay. The crowd provides you the solution and their experiences. For example, my Samsung phone recently stopped working. Now I went to the Samsung website and got completely confused. They told me all kinds of steps that I need to do, but none of them made sense to me. So I went to a couple of discussion forums and said, my phone starts up, the initial screen shows up. After that, my material is not, nothing is showing up, but my WhatsApp messages are giving me dings and pings. I'm getting my alarm, I'm getting everything. So this seems to be a display problem. So within 7 to 8 minutes, there were so many people who responded saying that it can be a display issue, it can be a software issue, it can be this, it can be that, it can be that. And in the next half an hour, I had a fair idea as to what I'm about to do. Here, one of the things and caveats or warnings I would like to share here is, while it is great to get cues from user generated content, you have also to be very clear about and sure about the authenticity and accuracy of information. Now, this one helped me. This information helped me. The people truly helped me. They gave me an idea which place to go. People shared me addresses. This is the service station. You can go to this local guy. He will charge you 500 rupees extra, but he will do it in 2 days. Lots of information. Now, let us talk about health. Today morning, when I was not feeling well, I went on the internet and I tried to find out what are the few things I should do. I got confusing information. When you are dealing with health or you're dealing with money, etc., it always helps to get information from credible sources. And this is the same that can be said when you are developing your training material, you are picking up stats, any kinds of statistics that you are picking up to share with people as to how the learning landscape is or what is the workforce population of various kind of generations, etc., etc. Try and stick to authenticated, genuine, registered, recognized websites. And that is where you are able to get information which is genuine. For example, in social media, if a doctor is saying something, that person will have more weightage and leverage as compared to somebody who is giving ke black pepper khao or haldi khao or tumko corona nahi hoga and all of those things. So you need to have that judgmental call. So while it's a blessing, it also comes with a caveat as to how you want to use this information. Now, for the longest time, the trainers would put their heart and soul into training people, into bringing them up to speed. अपने तरफ से 200% करते थे. But other than a pre and post test जो exam होता था, there would be no way to understand any other form of learning analytics. So the next big jump or the big change in learning landscape was usage of learning analytics for people. How much time, on an average, do users take to learn this course? How much time? Do they learn it in the first hour? Do they learn it in first attempt? Do they clear all mandatory trainings in one go? How many times do they pause and then come back? How many attempts do they take to clear the questionnaire? All kinds of learning analytics, men, women, diversity, all kinds of analytics was started to make was being made available, not from the beginning, but somewhere in between. The smart trainers, who would be the initial traditional trainers, will have these statistics with them because they went the extra mile. They wanted to make a difference, but not everybody had access to learning analytics, which meant that the target population analysis, the root cause analysis, the pass fail analysis, all of that used to become pretty much a guessing game. So, with the help of learning analytics, learning platforms revolutionized the learner's ability to interpret data and make their programs stronger and effective for their learners. Then we talk about learning engagement. अभी तक तो हम पढ़ा रहे, तुम सुन रहे हो, तुम पढ़ने आए हो, तुम सुनोगे, हमारा इससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं, हम अपने तरफ से बेस्ट कर रहे हैं. Learning engagement started coming into the picture when you realize that in spite of spending hours and hours, the results or the outcomes are not enjoyable enough, convincing enough, effective enough. So people came and said, well, I sent this person to this training, वो तो उतना ही गधा है जितना गधा वो गया था. So how do we make sure that learners are engaged? And we briefly spoke about engagement. How do you make learning curiosity? How do you make sure that you respect the learning with which people have come into the classroom? The other thing that people do is people come to the classrooms to learn new things, but they want to be acknowledged for the knowledge that they already have. There is this need for validation, which we sometimes have to cater to get better engagement. So, what kind of engagements are you implementing in your classroom? Makes a huge difference. Now, you can be implementing games, icebreakers, exercises, assignments, peer to peer learning. You can be rotating the group of people with each other to make sure that people are able to engage with each other and learn from each other. Learning engagement also includes elements of gamification, automation, immersive experience, and all of that. It all depends upon the learning outcomes that you want to achieve. So, learning engagement after learning analytics became a very big transformational factor for the learners. Last but not the least, this is nirvana for any trainer. Learning relationship versus personal transformation. So you come to a session to learn something, and not only do you learn, you transform. And your work that used to be patchy, full of faults, would irritate your supervisor. After you go back, they say कि wow, इस बंदे में तो बहुत change आया है after this training program. Can you please continue to engage with them? And that is where you develop various kind of triggers for continuous learning and development. So that's the evolution of learning platforms. Now I'm going to stop the share and wait for some reactions and responses before we jump further. Any thoughts? Because it was a huge monologue. I just wanted to hear from each one of you. Maybe if not each one of you, some of you. Whoever feels like sharing any thoughts. नील बटे सन्नाटा. कोई कुछ नहीं बोल रहा है. ऐसा कैसे हो रहा है? Absorbed. Very messy,
yeah,
absorbed.
ma'am, what I feel that the last piece is very important, that bringing the transformation, because if this happens and if a trainer is really able to transform a person, so that will really add very great values. And people
Nirvana,
will,
my friend, Nirvana.
yes,
Yeah,
true.
that is what all the dream state or the North Star for any trainer will be. कि मेरे क्लास में आए और ट्रांसफॉर्म होके जाए. What else?
Yes, ma'am. Generally, I agree to one point which you mentioned. Generally the participants who are coming for the training, they always want to share more than what they learn. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I have personally experienced, whenever we have any training programs, people want to speak. Everyone is so much eager. So unless and until you give them that space to vent out, no, they are not happy. So
they
that
will
is where,
doodle.
yeah,
They will
exactly.
doodle. They will ignore you and they will say ये तो सब मुझे आता है, मुझे सुनना ही
हाँ,
नहीं है. हाँ,
exactly.
हाँ, हाँ.
So I mean that's very important. And then to express them, okay, they may be knowing two things or three things, and then we say, oh, now you know three. So this we can add a three more to this, like that, make it five or six or whatever it may be, like. So that works in better way that I have seen.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And the trainer has to have the allowance and the patience for that. Most of
yeah.
the
That is very
time,
true.
वो patience नहीं रहता. The trainer
Ah, that
wants
is
to
true.
have an agenda. भाई मेरे इतना
Exactly.
मिनट है, इतने
Hmm.
मिनट में मुझे पढ़ाना है. और तुम ये
Uh,
बोले जा रहे हो, कहानी तुम्हारी खत्म नहीं हो रही है.
right,
How do
right,
I
right.
make sure that I am able to balance the inputs, but also not impact my timeline? Because वो भी तो
Absolutely.
important है.
That is true. That is true.
Otherwise, when I became a trainer long time back, this is long time back, I would go into these
Mm-hmm.
sessions because I share stories, etc. People would
Mm-hmm.
suddenly become very excited. Everybody wants to
Mm-hmm.
share.
Mm-hmm.
So my training timeline used to get bust.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
So I was supposed to cover this. दिन के हाथ में मैं बोलती थी, oh shit, ये तो cover ही नहीं हुआ. I had to
Mm-hmm.
cover so much tomorrow. मैं रेलगाड़ी भगाऊंगी. The next day, people are expecting same Tina. They would say, we will share
Right.
stories again. Again, they want to slow you down. And that is
Story.
when you
Mhm.
have to be a little,
Yeah, yeah,
strict, saying
yeah.
that, you know what, guys, yesterday we had a lot of sharing. Today we are
Right,
going to
right.
focus on the new things,
Yeah.
which can
So
be a little off.
true, true. No, as you rightly mentioned, because nowadays all of the information is available at the fingertips of all the participants and learners. So they can go through Chat GPT, Gemini, this thing. So many things are available. So
Mm,
even if you don't teach much, they will browse and they will learn. They will do that self-learning activity.
mm,
But to
mm,
keep that training more interesting, and there should be key takeaways which they can absorb. What I do generally is I always keep a problem statement. कोई भी स्लाइड रहेगा तो उसके ऊपर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट मैनेजमेंट है. So two team
mm,
members are in conflict, right? So I set
mm,
proposal. Then what you would do in this situation? Then we are keep
Scenario
discussing.
based.
So that problem statement and scenario based approach, people learn fast, absorb fast, and they are very
They
much
absorb
interested. They
fast and
don't
it's
feel
a little
boring
different.
also. हाँ, समझ में
It
नहीं आता
doesn't
ट्रेनिंग
become
कब खत्म हो गया. 8 घंटे का ट्रेनिंग होता है. So they won't, imagine 8 hours training online. If I have to do, it's very challenging, and
very challenging.
challenging. Yeah.
And then they also check the knowledge of the trainer.
Trainer.
They will
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
questions and they have the answer already from Google. They
yeah.
will check the answer
Right.
from the trainer. And then if you say something different, they said, well, this is what
Right,
is on
right.
the internet.
So I have
And then
one
you have
banner
to
for
have
that, that ask question only if you have already tried in ChatGPT.
Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
believe
that's nice.
these kind of tools
Yeah,
available like ChatGPT, Gemini, all
yeah.
those, our knowledge per se is okay. However, when it comes to skill, I
Hmm,
don't believe that it can means impart kind of a skill.
it
And
does.
so that's a one differentiation is very much the thought comes in my mind while you are talking about it. Yes, there are some wow moment, and even after a day training complete 8 hours and second day the conclude day, we used to hear so many success story and they are totally energized and ready to rock the means their world of profession. However, still I find 10 to 20% population only after going from that hotel or the learning space they apply it.
Hmm.
And what happens in general that 80% population back to the square one.
Back to square one. So that is where your reinforcement curve plays a important role. If you remember, we have to make sure that our refreshers are in place, so people are excited, etc. How will you apply it in your job? What kind of follow-up, 15 minutes, 20-minute sessions can you implant without disturbing the work schedule of the employee? Saying that, okay, you will be sharing with us how you applied this and what benefits you got. Okay, it can be email sharing, it can be online sharing, it can be classroom sharing. So that way you are ensuring as a trainer to not let people fall into the trap of the forgetting curve. Because we did
That
talk
is
about it,
very
right?
much required. That is very much required. Uh, but still, there is one challenge I used to find, because in an organization where the 4,000 plus employee are there, it is quite difficult to get connected and having this kind of a re-emphasizes.
So this is completely off, I would call it syllabus, it's off curriculum. My recommendation is create your learning champions. Create your
Yeah,
learning
great.
champions. And create those enthu cutlets, the ones who love to talk, love to share a lot. Those enthu cutlets should be given the job to make sure that people are implementing the learnings, and in a month or so there can be a Friday evening 45 minutes meet where everybody shares what they've learned and what they have failed in. So there can be things that I learned, I went applied and it didn't work for me. So those
Beautiful.
enthu cutlets can be put together to create something called a SDT, self-directed team. उनको कोई डायरेक्ट नहीं कर रहा, उनका कोई लीडर नहीं है, उनका कोई सुपरवाइजर नहीं है, उनको कोई पैसे नहीं मिल रहे उसके लिए. But those self-directed teams make sure that you are investing towards continuous learning. So you can find those learning champions who will be more than willing to participate with you, learn with you, and they can actually become eventually over a period of time, if you think they can actually become master trainers.
That is good idea.
Yeah, try and use that. It has helped me
Ma'am,
in the
I have
past.
one question. I have one
Yes,
question. I mean,
yes.
we are developing the learning modules, and I have seen many participants what they do when they open the video. They have to do it in maybe 5-10 minutes, and the video may be of 2 hours, right? So they directly click karte hain and they go on the end, they click it, and
Yeah.
there is this assessment where it can be given multiple times. So they try the assessment, they get the score, and it is done for them. Well, I mean, to us, we don't know actually whether how what is they are doing. So that is
Hmm.
something is a drawback or maybe of this e-learning system, which people for the name of organization, like you mentioned, you can create some learning programs and all. Even if you roll out in these organizations, I have seen, and this has been one of the concern which was shared by one of the HR team, where की एम्प्लॉइज जो है वो यहाँ पे एंड में जाते हैं, सबके तो टिक 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 तो सबके हो गए रहते, लेकिन पूछा तो किसको कुछ
Hmm.
आता नहीं. So then they asked call one of the guys. So I did one test. इसमें कौन कौन से मॉड्यूल्स थे, वो बोला उसको कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा है. तो आई थिंक आई कुड मेक आउट कि इसने लास्ट में जाके क्लिक मार के आ गया बंदा. तो इस प्रॉब्लम को कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे बताइए.
LMS
अगर
को अपना दोस्त बनाओ. LMS को
हाँ
दोस्त बनाओ, उसमें अपना
जी.
वो बनाओ, प्रोग्रामिंग डालो कि इस कोर्स को 45 मिनट्स के कम में कोई कोर्स खत्म कर ही नहीं सकता.
हम्म.
कर ही नहीं
ओके
सकता. You cannot. For
ओके.
example, there are trainings that I have to take in my organization. उसमें तुम आगे क्लिक कर ही नहीं सकते. You cannot click forward. तुमको सुनना ही पड़ेगा. तुमको एक्सरसाइज करना ही पड़ेगा. तुमको बीच में वो वाला जो मॉड्यूल है उसमें जो 3-4 सिली क्वेश्चंस है उसको क्लियर करना ही पड़ेगा. जब तक नहीं क्लियर करोगे आगे नहीं बढ़ने देंगे. So these checks and balances. But to
ओके.
irritate people, you will have to put it in. Otherwise, they
राइट.
will be playing with you.
या
That is
या.
what I do. हाँ, तो 45
Um,
मिनट्स के कम में अगर हुआ. हाँ अलंकार बोलो.
my organization has taken to the other extreme. In our organization, LMS will be at its own speed. You cannot forget about skipping. You can go to the next sprint. So half an hour is half an hour.
हाफ एन आवर उससे आगे निकल ही नहीं सकते. Because
So,
if you have to
so,
make खीर,
so
it takes time. उसे जल्दी बना दे तो वो खीर नहीं बन रहा. सीधी सी बात है. आधा घंटा तुम्हें लगाना है.
so what has happened? Well, I'm just sharing.
हाँ,
We have annual targets also. So some of
हाँ,
the people, what they have done, some of people who are very passionate about it, they've even
हाँ,
found out the courses which are unlocked somehow because of some developmental issue. So that is a gold mine of treasure. So those lists will be circulated that these courses are not locked properly. So you just go through
हाँ.
them and these are the answer keys. You finish.
ये बदमाश तो होंगे ही. ये कुछ तो बदमाश होंगे ही होंगे. But तो बदमाश के ऊपर भी बदमाशी कर सकते हैं ना. So we have to figure out our programming of our courses, and don't do it for all courses, okay? Don't do it for silly courses. I told you about Accenture, right? There are some courses that they will say कि अगर तुमने questionnaire clear कर दिया तुम्हें करने की जरूरत नहीं. Don't do it. Don't do the course. But वो question इतने मुश्किल होते हैं, इतने मुश्किल होते हैं, इतने मुश्किल होते हैं. And I would know some topics in and out, still I would not be able to clear them. Then I will have to go through the entire course. And they would assign you learning targets for every 3 months. अगर नहीं किया तुम्हारे supervisor को mail चला जाएगा. Now for senior people like us, it is embarrassing, right? कि तुम अपना training नहीं कर रहे हो, क्या है टीना? Then you will have to say, oh no, I have to sit on a Saturday or a Sunday. So this is especially for the badmash people who are trying to, skip and, skip and jump and find some loophole. For them, it can be, it
Madam,
might not be
please,
the best solution, but yeah.
uh, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think this kind of restriction in LMS required when there is a kind of a legal compliance kind of a courses is very much
Yes,
necessary.
mandatory courses. Mandatory
But,
courses.
I
Yes.
think it is against the adult learning principle.
Yes. So generally, when you are doing the mandatory IT, cyber security, POSH, okay, sexual harassment trainings, people tend to overskip them, and later on they fall into trouble, and then people say, "तुमने ये पढ़ा नहीं था?" Vendor procurement, bribery, what kind of client entertainment can you do? What is considered to be a bribe? What is not considered to be a bribe? These programs, which are typically quote unquote mandatory training programs, intellectual property, yes, Ganesh, thank you. All these programs have to have a ticker, have to have the time, have to have the utmost attention of everybody, so that these are done not as a checkmark activity. For the rest of them, you will have to make it, like I said, curious, interesting, so that people are just not browsing through all of it. Also, you are not only depending upon the online module, right? We are saying blended learning. तो तुम इसमें गोल करोगे तो वहां जाके तुम कर नहीं पाओगे. पर्सनल लर्निंग में जब तुम्हें अपने हाथों से करना पड़ेगा, नहीं कर पाओगे. And that automatically will offset the time that you saved here will get wasted there. Yes, Ganesh.
This may be a very out of box question, but
Yes.
we are discussing this this is, I think, universal issue, like
Yes.
whatever mandatory training or whatever the essential training, and still people go on tappa maro ya फिर
Shortcuts. Yeah.
they circulate on WhatsApp what are the answer keys and blah blah blah. So I'm just wondering, like, if this is failing, then does it means like our ways are wrong, or there is some need that what exactly the objective is not meeting? So probably these people are not going to the area where these problems can arise, and then they feel about requirement of such training. Because I can hear from, I mean, many companies, I don't want to name the companies, but then everywhere almost it is the same, that even as I said, like intellectual property, or maybe downloading the softwares which are free, which is not
Cybersecurity, yeah.
cyber security related things, or
Mm.
something like mandatory related things. So those people, I mean, hardly 10 or 20% people do it seriously. So does it means like our efforts are very less, or probably the way we are giving this kind of information, the ways are wrong? So I'm just
Yes
wondering.
and no. Yes and no. Definitely, for learner engagement, we are doing something wrong because people are still looking forward to skipping and taking shortcuts, etc. One of the things, and yes, Garima, casual approach. Hey, ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, फालतू में ये सब कराते रहते हैं. कभी ऐसा आज तक कब हुआ है last? When was it? When did it happen last time? Like fire security training and all of these things. People tend to have these justifications. ये होता नहीं है, all of this. So in that situation, what I have found helpful is doing an audit, a fun audit with people. And also, and second aspect that you can see as a learning expert is to make sure that you identify mandatory training. Such में mandatory है क्या? Is it really needed for this group of people? Or are we imposing this training just because somebody told us to? So this question can substantially reduce your load and your moral compass as to whether these people really require the training. For example, there were people who would be doing simple data analysis, etc. उनको तुम शेयर होल्डर कम्युनिकेशन, insider training और पता नहीं क्या क्या बता रहे हो, हाँ? And they don't even need it. They will not be eligible for it. So one of the things that I did when we were in GE was we did a separate layer of mandatory trainings for different levels of leadership. So the junior most level had the least number of trainings which were mandatory, which was relevant for them and nothing else. But as and when you progress, your trainings, mandatory trainings increase because they are relevant for you. So are you gauging the relevance for people? For example, if I'm dealing with vendors on a regular basis, I cannot afford to take this training easily and be casual about it because it affects my day-to-day bread and butter. The other person is being casual about it क्योंकि उसको रोज इसका जरूरत नहीं पड़ता. That is why. Similarly, if somebody, an IT person who is having to install softwares in other people's system, he has to audit that nobody is downloading or sending emails to external people. That person has to have crystal clear clarity as to what is allowed, what is not allowed. And if people have not taken this training seriously, he or she should have the capacity to raise an escalation and recommend them jabardasti for this training. Like one of the things many organizations do is phishing ka training. They send you these dummy emails, which are phishing emails, just to test whether you know the phishing policy or you by mistake click on a link. And then you are, after 3 mistakes, you are forced to take the training again. So there are some ways and methods that we can reinforce, but the larger problem has to do with engagement. And if we are intelligent enough to bifurcate what is truly mandatory and what something we are just imposing on people, it might help us. It might not be a complete solution. Forced learning will only yield results when it impacts their day-to-day job and their incentives. If, let us say, you click on 3 phishing emails on a regular basis and you're given what should I say, a warning number 1, warning number 2, warning number 3. After warning number 3, make the penalty, if not financial, so visible and so impactful that the person will take it seriously कि यार नहीं 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 इसको ना इसीलिए नहीं ले सकते, ये पागल है, ये लोग मेल वेल भेज देते हैं, उसके बाद ये कर देते हैं, उसके बाद वो कर देते हैं. So it really helps. Okay, but remember my earlier caveat, not everything is mandatory. Make it intelligent enough to know कि कौन सा truly mandatory है, कौन सा हमने जबरदस्ती mandatory बना रखा है. So you will have to take that at the various kind of levels of employees कि कौन से employee को कौन से level पे क्या mandatory करना है और कौन से को उसकी जरूरत नहीं है, हम जबरदस्ती करा रहे हैं. And that is when you will be able to get some clarity and some better results. It will still not be solved, but it should get 70% resolved. Does it help? There are multiple virtual AI models available where you get immersive training, which is more fun and it is boring when you do the trainings like a video or a PDF. And in the immersive model, you will get to be a part of that module. You are as an avatar in that AI module and you are doing all of those things and you're going out. They are expensive. So the solution is there, but they're expensive. Is the organization deciding that to be critical enough to implement that kind of a solution is the question. Make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Let's finish the last portion. We don't have too much time, but I have 15 minutes. Let me finish the last portion that we want to talk about. Thank you for the engagement. Let us go and let's talk about. Yes, now we are going to talk about benefits of learning platforms. This is not something which is rocket science, all of you get it. You can have highly engaging multimedia learning experience. You have customized and personalized learning. You can track and report progress, and it is useful for you also to implement and improve your programs in a better way. And simplify training administration, which used to take a lot of time earlier. So types of digital learning platforms. This is where we will end our class today. Types, there are ready-to-use content and trainer-created content. And then there is adaptive capability and non-adaptive capability platforms. Now, who can tell me what is adaptive and non-adaptive capability platforms? Anybody wants to take a stab? इसको पढ़ के नहीं बोलना है.
I think with adaptive capability, it's probably like based on. I'm just giving an example. Like you said, if I am the avatar in a program or in a training, so based on the choice which I select, then the
Ah.
next, the next thing pops up or the next thing comes up. Be it, even if I'm doing wrong, then they will correct me in a manner, or if I'm doing right, they will give me like, yes, you've done good work. That is
Hmm.
adaptive, and non-adaptive is like one simple format or same format for everyone across.
Perfect. So 90% bang on. Adaptive is when your learning adapts to your style of learning, the speed at which you are learning. Your so if you were taking this training with Tina on her laptop and suddenly you have to get into a car and go somewhere in the middle of the session. My learning platform, if you pause it here and you sit in your car at the back seat when somebody else is driving, you can resume your training on that platform exactly from the same place without losing any progress, is an example of adaptive training. Another example of adaptive capability is when you are um, at a certain level already. So let us say that you know basics of AI, you are at the intermediate level, and Tina is at basics of AI and she doesn't know anything about AI. So the same software, same program, same interface, based on the responses Tina gives, will assign her at a certain number of page, certain number of modules, certain number of questionnaire as compared to somebody else who is at a higher advanced level. So that adaptive platform and the adaptive capability is one of the things that stands out when you are deciding what learning platform you want to pick up. So many organizations nowadays generally pick up adaptive capabilities. Non-adaptive platforms are generally picked up for trainings that are very basic, which are factory level trainings, etc., etc., where people have to learn how to use an equipment, how to do certain kind of compliances, SOX audits, etc., etc. But slowly and steadily, people are moving away from non-adaptive platforms. Having said that, ready to use content and trainer created content are also two ways that you distinguish between various kind of learning platforms. Ready to use content is something which is like bonus. It's got gold. It's already there, sitting there, but there are platforms where you cannot edit them, you cannot modify them. You have to either use them as is, or you use them into your own training content and then you make it available for people. So now ready to use content, like I said, is gold and is often valued by many organizations, which are startups, which do not have any additional historical data from the beginning. But in organizations where there is already a lot of content created and people want to have the flexibility to edit the ready to use content and also upload the trainer created content, that is where you can decide which one is more relevant for you and what platform you want to choose. So, types of digital learning platforms, they can be ready to use content platforms or trainer created content platforms, or they can be adaptive capability platforms or non adaptive platforms. These are the major distinctions of learning platforms. Okay. So, now after this, I'm going to basically give you some time back, maybe. Have we finished before time? Oh, yeah, we have finished a little bit early today. So, let's stop share. And so after this, what we can do is we can look at this module. We can also look at what kind of question pops up into our head, especially about learning platforms. There is some additional material which I will not be sharing today because this module in itself is enough. The next module, the other section of this module, will have more questions and interesting concepts, especially because you will be deciding what are the parameters using which you will shortlist your learning management system for your organization. So that will be a little more intensive. But for now, this is our session today. I'm going to stop the recording and wait for any of you to ask any questions because we have 10 minutes.